me it's a walk in the park. Y'all too smart, can't talk from the heart. I got sauce and it's all for the charts. No aux in the car. Ride around bumping that first blueprint on this. I ain't trying to hear what the info is. I been trying to move on the impulsive tip. Do you want dip? I can tell you ain't having that much fun. 3 years in with your ex-boyfriend, y'all tied that knot, but it's back undone. Oh yeah, I'm trying to stack 1 ton. You ain't gotta ask where that come from. I ain't never rock no pack, son. I was on the pack at the mall, same mess. I skip class, no hallway pass. I'm team cap, you was always last. She got good hands and all state. I got good kids and they all came fast. I ain't gotta say it, you can come to the Ville. Just ask who's hot, they gon' all say Jack. Told me stay down, but I always have. When I come around, man, they always ask, how does it feel? Oh. Ain't shit, tell me it's a walk in the park. Y'all too smart, can't talk from the heart. I got sauce and it's all for the charts. Started my night with the light. When I got to the club, I was all for the dark. And I'm on a wave like a dolphin and shark. Y'all took shots, they was all for the mark. Keep it raw from the start.
It's the most wonderful time of the year. Welcome to Tigers Tonight. Guys, it is finally game week. And I'm getting a little feedback. All right, let's see if that's better. No, I'm getting terrible feedback. Let's see what I can do. Oh, that's better. All right, well, it's game week. We're getting all the kinks worked out here. I am your host, John Maddox, for Tigers Tonight, joined as always by the best co-host in all the land. We will start with our friend from the great north, Brian Moss. Brian, how are you, sir?
Muted.
Brian, you're muted. We can't hear you. Let's see.
Muted.
Wow.
Oh, negative, Ghost Rider. Here's the funny thing, as you can tell, we were just talking before the show, so we know his microphone works.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Suddenly he's muted,
Wow.
And he dropped out. So we will move to our friend Larry Marley, who is in the voice of reason here with Tigers Tonight, is in the palatial Marley Manor. And Larry, how are you this evening?
I am not.
You are in a hotel room.
This is a hotel room in Nash Vegas.
Oh.
And I'll be here all week actually. And so it's funny. So you're not going to get any Memphis coverage here, as opposed to because of Tennessee and Vanderbilt. But what is interesting here is that you do get a little bit of American Athletic Conference coverage here, there's not really a team near, so it's sort of weird, but they do. And I'm not really even sure why that is, but I when I've been up here, you'll get I guess American now basketball coverage, and you'll get American football coverage, and so yeah, I mean, they were talking this morning on one of the local news channels about the American, and of course Memphis's name came up along with Tulane, and like I said, there's no bowl tie-in or anything, but it's just kind of weird. But one thing I will say about Nashville, whether you get Memphis football coverage or not, it is a great college football city, and they really do love their college football. So whatever your feelings about Nashville are, I will give it that.
That is the redeeming thing about Nashville. Brian, do we have you now?
I have you now. Nope.
Doesn't sound like it.
Doesn't sound like it. So,
all right. Well, we will roll on. We had our first depth chart came out on Monday, of course, at the press conference. And, one of the things I asked Coach Silverfield about was, what does it look like to move from camp week and, fall camp where you're tired of hitting your own teammates into the actual game week? And here's what he had to say.
Yeah, I think, camp is just so much, okay, hey, we're getting through the installations, going through every situation, scenario possible. And you really just hone in on each practice had its own theme. Now you get into a kind of routine, if there's such a one in college football, and say, okay, hey, here's what a Tuesday practice looks like. Here's what a Wednesday practice looks like. Thursday walkthrough, a fast Friday, and then game day. And so getting our guys back into a schedule. They also start classes today. As you guys know, we firmly believe in academics. It's very important to us. So getting them back into that routine. And I mentioned it yesterday in the team meeting, right? We have to have an immense focus this season. It's got to be one day at a time. Putting the blinders on, as media well knows, I'm off social media. So for me, it's that there's no further distractions other than, handling what's right in front of us, and really 1 week at a time, one day at a time. And I think our guys understand that approach. And I'm really excited to see them put it in. Now, we've got to preach it. We got to live it. We got to do it one day at a time as well ourselves.
All right, so we'll give Brian another chance here. Brian, are you with us?
It's a third time a charm. Can you hear me?
The third time is the charm. How are you this evening, sir?
Doing pretty good. Those Spectrum upgrades are working like a charm, I'm telling you.
You got to love it when the cable internet does upgrades. My cats, by the way, for those who wonder, have not paid a lick of attention to me since I've been home for 2 hours. And one of them is on the desk and the other one will make an appearance shortly. So do not be alarmed. I am not a cat. That will be somebody else. So, Brian, we were talking about the depth chart. The first depth chart came out on Monday. We just heard from Coach Silverfield talking about kind of that move from camp into game week. What jumped out at you on the depth chart?
For me, really, center, because I think it's going to be very important to have, a strong center. The battle. I mean, in the preseason predictions, I had Austin Gentle winning that one, but it looks like Yakari Walker won that starting job. So I'm really interested to see how this offensive line, just comes together. I want to see how they play. Like I said, because that center position is mighty important to dictate what goes on the offensive line.
Yeah, and it's even more important, Larry, this year because you've got new quarterback, you've got, except for Bussey and Kluse, you've got practically an all new receiving core. Anybody that plays under center will basically be a new quarterback. And as you know, Larry, the center is sort of the quarterback of the offensive line.
That's exactly what I was going to say. So the center, his job is to look at the protection and move the pieces as you get to the line. And in our case, a lot of times we don't huddle, right? And so you're doing this on the fly. And what makes the center the most critical part of the offense, other than the quarterback, right, is that, especially in our offense, he's literally looking at the defense as they line up, and he is changing the protection. The quarterback's responsible for this too, but he's changing the protection. If he sees a blitz to the strong side, he may flip and you're going to pull. Let's say you're going to pull the guard. He may signal to the quarterback, you need to flip this, right? Because if he pulls, like, you're screwed, right? So that's where the center is the center and quarterback have to be on the same page all the time, every play. And I think that's something that a lot of fans, if you ever see a screwed up protection coverage, either the quarterback missed a blitz or the center missed a protection call, and every single time. So yeah, I mean, and you got a new quarterback too, right? We got a new quarterback, so all that cohesion that we had the last, certainly 3 years, is gone.
Yeah, a couple of notes from the NFL today while we're thinking about it. Seth Hennigan made the last cut, but he was cut this afternoon ahead of the 4 p.m. Eastern deadline that NFL teams had to get to 53. But the Jaguars let go of John Wofford earlier this week, so Seth will almost undoubtedly make the practice squad there. Probably a similar situation for Chandler Martin, Kobe Minor, those guys. So they'll get a chance, to work their way in. And that's one of the things we talked to Coach Silverfield about is, Brian, that, from a recruiting standpoint, you can point to guys, not only on practice squads or whatever, but guys in the NFL. And that's so important. Even, I know it's money and it's all that stuff, but even though it comes down to that, I still feel like guys want to go somewhere where they have a chance to go to the NFL, right? Especially your higher level guys.
Yeah, Memphis has been putting players into the NFL, and you can't. I mean, you can't deny that. But also, if you don't make the NFL, there's a thing called the CFL, and some Memphis players have been, they made a good living, going up to the CFL and playing for a long time.
Yeah, Coxie is up there now. Um, so Jeb asked a good question here. Uh, if with new QB and center, this first game, do you play them more snaps than you normally would if they'd had games with each other? And I think that's a really interesting question because look, and we're going to talk to Jay Sunhalter from ESPN here in a little bit about it, but you have a situation where they haven't played together and you don't know how guys are going to respond when those lights come on, because it's a different feel when you're just hitting the same guys over and over. And now when you go into game action, how do guys respond? And I think one of the things that's going to be really critical on Saturday is, I think we're all going to agree, this is a game Memphis should win. But to Jeb's point, do you go to the bench as early as you ordinarily would, or do you maybe let, especially your quarterback and your center, get maybe into that third quarter?
Um, so a lot of this has to do with how they look in the first half. One of the things that we always talk about on this show is the main difference between practice and a game is halftime. And we talk about this week after week after week. How does a team look coming out after halftime, right? And because in practice or even a scrimmage, you don't have halftime. There is no stop. You're just playing for 2 or 3 hours or whatever. But what happens at halftime is you sometimes it's very beneficial and sometimes it's very detrimental depending on how the game is going. So what I always say is, I always would like to see our players play through in at least one series in the half. But in this case, depending on how they look, um, you might want to play them all the way through, say, the end of the third quarter. Now, again, again last year, if you'll recall, the game was pretty much over by half, right? So, and we were very, very, very experienced. So they really didn't. I don't even think they played one series after the half. But to your point, John, yeah, I think you will. I think you'll see them play more. Jeb, I would expect to see, instead of the usual, say, 45 to 50 snaps, you'll probably see more like 65 to 70 snaps out of your first group.
Yeah, because it's a fine line, right, Brian? You don't want to play the guys too much. You don't want to show too much. You don't want to play too much and risk injury. But again, you have to balance that because you have, Brian, what amounts to an entirely new team.
Yeah, but at the same time, Memphis has, in my opinion, the first two games are or should be easy wins. So while it is important for Lewis and Walker to build that camaraderie, they did have the fall camp. So for me, I want the backups to play a little bit more. Hopefully, the scores out of reach, and because I want to see Maiden or AJ Hill, whoever's going to be the backup, and if, in my opinion, it's going to be Arrington Maiden. Get him some playing time, get him comfortable in the first couple of games, because you don't want, if something happens to Lewis, let's just say down the line, let's say he gets knocked out the UAB game at the end of it or something like that. You don't want Maiden or Hill to have their first start against USF without any experience whatsoever.
Right.
So for me, yeah, I would still play him, at least the 3 quarters. But in the fourth quarter, if the game's out of line, just my opinion, yeah, I would put in the backups, let them get some playing time there.
Yeah, and again, it's not just the quarterback position.
Yeah.
Once you move outside of the running backs, where it's going to be Greg DeWosier, I never am able to say that right, and Sutton Smith. And they're going to have DeWosier doing kickoff returns, Sutton doing punt returns as well. So you've got that part of the offense, but you're unproven after that. You've got Jamari Hawkins at one wide out, Jercary Caldwell at the other. Marcelo Bussey at the other one. So you've got a little bit of experience, and you got Brady Cluse backing up Bussey. So, but again, it's not just quarterback center. It's what kind of timing do the wide receivers have with the with Lewis, and then to your point, Maiden, or Hill, whomever it is, and Cortez Bram is going to play. Ryan said that, but he's not going to play 80 snaps because he
Yeah.
just he doesn't probably know the playbook. I mean, I'm just assuming he doesn't, but and then the offensive line is what I've really looked at, and it's so good to have a guy like Chris Adams back, to kind of have that, guy who's been here, and Breland back. And so you've got a couple pieces back, but that's the unit that has to come together quickly. Same thing on the other side of the ball, right? Your defensive linemen have to come together quickly. You've got Jalen Bell, Puda Walker, who the staff is really high on, and of course William Whitlow Jr. Coming back, and then you've got a smorgasbord in the secondary of guys. Losing Cortland Marsh really hurt this secondary. But I do want to put people's mind at ease. We saw the post go up last week that Memphis was looking for walk-on DBs, so on and so forth. That's purely a numbers thing. They have one more roster spot, so they want to fill it with maybe a guy that can help in practice. Now, Ryan said if he plays, we've got a lot of issues if this person ends up on the field. But it has a lot to do with the house settlement and having designated student athletes. And I don't pretend to understand the inner workings of all this and how this is going to work. But he said it's not because we're super short or we don't have trust in the guys. It's a number spot. So
they didn't do it just this year. They've done it, if I'm not mistaken, every year. It just, and I think they posted it on X or Twitter last year as well. It just wasn't this close to the season. I think that's why, the cause of the uproar.
Well, I asked Frank Bonner and Jonah Dillon about that, and I think it's got something to do with, these are called DSAs, designated student athletes, and they have to basically commit for an extended period. So the reason they waited until now is they needed to make sure this person was going to actually be enrolled in school. So it's a very confusing time, and maybe on the bye week we'll get somebody on to kind of explain all this, because even with an MBA, I don't get it. It's over my head. So one thing I read that was interesting, and Larry, you'll love this more than anything. Our punter will be playing in his very first football game.
But
Kerrigan, but he's Aussie.
The last time Memphis had an Aussie punter, it turned out pretty good.
I know, and I'm sure it will be fine, but I don't know. I mean,
but that goes back, Larry, to what we're talking about with quarterback and center and all that. It's a timing thing. You've got a new punter, and I think, Brian, you've said that Gianni Spedic is going to break kind of the cycle we've had of not being able to have consistent kicking. But you've got new kicker, new punter, new long snapper, so.
Look, here's the thing about so one good thing about punters are this, and I've said this before. This is absolutely true. Punters in general are better athletes than place kickers. They just are. It's just true. For one thing, that they do actually have to quote unquote cover a little bit, but the other thing is they're actually out there and they're getting like really rushed. Kickers, they don't really do that, because of the rules for where you can line up on a place kick, right? You can't line up over the center. There's all these other rules. So punters are usually better athletes. I will say that, and also it's not as punting is more of whereas place kicking you gotta put it right between so it's more of a mental. Punting is more of a brute force, go out there and kick it as far as you can to a degree. Like there is some gamesmanship, like kicking it out of bounds, trying to pin them deep and all of that stuff. But when you're sitting on your own 20, just kick the hell out of it. You know what I mean? I mean, that's the goal. So, our punter was actually a decent athlete because he was also he actually played linebacker in high school, so he was a decent athlete. Our place kicker, on the other hand, I like I've got nothing. I got nothing.
So that's where it originated, that the kickers are idiots. One notable absence from the depth chart, and we asked Coach Silverfield about it. C.J. Smith is battling some just, he called it nagging injuries. He said it's not anything that will keep him out for the year, but the one that kind of jumped off the page to me, Brian, was Jerry Cross at tight end. I really expected to see him on the two deep, but you're looking at Christian Ross and Bryce Anderson. I was a little surprised by Jerry Cross not being on the two deep.
Yeah, I had Bryce Anderson actually as a starter, in my preseason article, because I just think everyone speaks very highly of Bryce. I think he has sure hands. He's a great route runner. In this offense, with the new quarterback, I thought the tight end position, you're going to need someone who's good at pass catching. But Christian Ross, he's been in he's a redshirt sophomore. The staff is high on him as well, and he earned that spot. So it's going to be great. Seeing what type of tight end, just what type of player he's going to be at Memphis. Because I'm high on Bryce Anderson. I think he's great. But yeah, Ross, he surprised me.
Yeah, I do think it's a situation where you're going to see all three guys basically, because down around the goal line or short yardage, Jerry Cross at tight end is 6'5", 270. He's listed at 275. He's probably closer to 280, 285. So, he's going to bring in, quite a bit of heft down along that, like I said, especially, third and short, goal line situations. He's going to be kind of a go-to guy, I think, down there close. So again, as we talked about, you've got a whole new battery on special teams as well, although you still have Tanner Gillis. So if things go south with Spectic, you've got Tanner to come in, who has kind of been that stopgap the last couple of seasons. So he's the one kind of steady there. I'm very interested in DeWosier and Sutton returning kicks and how they play that. Jalen Thompson is actually the backup punt returner, but Sutton is listed as the backup kickoff returner. But Brian, Larry, do you guys feel like this is we've got one football and we've got to figure out how to get it in these guys' hands?
Well, and so as far as DeRosier and Sutton Smith go, that to me, that's where those are the guys early on in the season that we got to make sure that they touch the football, because they're your experienced playmakers, right? One's a redshirt senior, one's a redshirt junior, right? And so those are your guys that you're looking at going, okay, we go how they go. And then as the season goes on, then you're going to break in your wide receivers, because the truth is our wide receivers. I mean, Cortez Brennan, he comes in with a built-in relationship with Lewis, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to translate on this level. I mean, guys, you got to be realistic here, right? So as our quarterback feels out his wide receivers, it really is important that because you talked about tight end, that's a biggie for us. Those guys have got to be solid in their blocking and have good hands, because that's your bailout, right, for your quarterback. So to your point, John, it is a numbers game, but it's not. I don't think it's near as bad as it has been in the past. I think you're just going to see, again, you're going to see your two main running backs early on in the season for sure carrying a lot of that load. And look, a lot of it's going to be on Brendan. How does Brendan Lewis pick up the offense, right? I mean, how does that look?
You muted?
Yep, somebody's muted.
I do think it is one of those things, right, where you have one football and you have two super talented guys,
right,
and maybe the kicking game gives them a chance to get into space and be a game, because either one of those guys can be a game changer, even at the kickoff return or punt return position.
Yeah, but like Jed said, you don't want them to get hurt. So I mean, for me, I mean, I'd feel more comfortable if one was starting running back and the other one was your kickoff return, and then your other kickoff returner maybe be a wide receiver, a backup wide receiver, just a bit on the safe side. But obviously, we're not the coaches, and Coach Silverfield is he's done a terrific job the past few years, so we got to put our trust in him.
Yeah, and I just think you've got, two dynamic athletes, and you're just trying to figure out, okay, how can I get these guys the football
Yeah.
and get it to them in space? And, but to me, it's also, is Memphis going to have a between the tackles, runner? Because I don't feel like Sutton or Greg are either of those. They're both space guys.
But Bodiford, you still got Bodiford. He'll run between the tackles.
All right, so let's bring in our friend Eric Procius with MemphisWeather.net with the first forecast. And Eric, we've decided, we talked, we are week to week in terms of your employment with us. It depends on the forecast each week, but I feel like we're starting off pretty strong this weekend.
Well, considering what you're paying me, I'm happy with that deal. So that'll work out just great. And I realize that I'm wearing the wrong shirt tonight. I do have my Power C on tonight, but that's only because my daughter and my money go to Chattanooga. So I'm kind of conflicted a little bit this weekend. But no, go Tigers. And if you're planning to tailgate on Saturday morning ahead of the game, my, oh my, what a fabulous forecast we've got for you. You really can't get much better than this. When you're talking about a mid-afternoon kickoff in August, this could really go the wrong way pretty quickly. But we're looking for mostly sunny skies, and those temperatures during the morning hours are going to start off in the mid 60s. They'll be rising through the 70s during the morning, but just absolutely gorgeous weather. And then during the afternoon hours, kickoffs at 3:30. It looks like we're going to be probably in the low to mid 80s, 83, somewhere around there for the afternoon high. Mostly sunny skies. Winds generally out of the north at about 10 miles an hour, so really shouldn't have too many problems with the kicking game. And then as the game winds down in the early evening, we'll be back into the mid 70s. It sounds more like a late September game than it does a late August game. We're going to take this all day long.
Yeah, you dialed up some good weather lower today. Even we had Chamber of Commerce weather this afternoon, and lower humidity, which I am always in favor of.
The record low for Memphis tomorrow is 58, and we are likely going to tie that, and it'll be a little cooler than that in the suburbs. So this is phenomenal. We'll take it.
Zero complaints here. Eric, tell everybody how they can follow you.
Yeah, absolutely. MemphisWeather.net is your source for local Memphis weather information. We are hyper local. We only talk about the areas right around Memphis. You can find us on the web, mobile app. Take that website and convert it into a web app and put it on your phone. Also on all the social media feeds, we're Memphis Weather 1, Memphis Weather, the number 1. And we keep you updated throughout any hazardous weather, and even when the days are great like today.
Eric, thanks a lot for joining us, and we're looking forward to having you this year.
Absolutely. Go Tigers.
Eric Procius from MemphisWeather.net with our first forecast. So, guys, we're waiting for a special guest here in a few minutes, but you got to love that. If you're a kicker or you're a quarterback, you're going to have good weather. And, that's one of those things that it's a little thing, but it would help at the beginning of a career at Memphis, Brian, that you don't have to come out and, like Eric said, 350 degrees and high humidity and the ball gets sweaty and all that. So you've got to get you've got to be happy with getting good weather to start anyway.
Yeah. And I mean, I can't remember if he mentioned the wind.
Very little wind.
Yeah, very little. So, perfect conditions for Spectic. And I think if he nails a couple, it'll get him going. And I think, collectively, Memphis fans will be like, just a sigh of relief that they have a kicker, even though it's perfect conditions. So they'll still have the little worry when it's a little windy or a little rain, but at least with good weather, they have a kicker.
Yeah. And John Summerall brings up a good point here too. We were talking about Sutton and Greg. Reminds him a lot of when Darrell Henderson was here, just to get a few more touches, just to get these guys a chance to get the ball in space. I think that's probably the mindset here. But yeah, we couldn't ask for better weather Saturday. I mean, low 60s to tailgate in. Are you kidding me? That sounds like, we're starting September 30th. But as I always say, I got a feeling we're going
What
to
was
pay
the temperature at kickoff again? Was it
like
low
in the
80s?
70s.
Oh,
Yeah,
70s.
yeah.
All right. So, yeah, I mean, Silverfield's what, 9-6 overall, when in the game temperature is in the 70s. He was 1-1 last year. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes.
So we're joined now by the gentleman that will be on the color analyst call for ESPN Plus on Saturday's game. And this is Jay Sunhalter. Jay, thanks for joining us for a few minutes.
Hey guys, yeah, it's so great to be with you. Look forward
Hey,
to seeing you in
so
Memphis Saturday.
yeah, so you are the only person we have ever had on this show that has been on the television show Lizard Lick Towing. So I got to ask, as a
Yeah.
tight end from East Carolina, how in the world does that happen?
You know what? It's so funny. So I'll give you guys the quick story. When I was at East Carolina, like in the weight room, I became friends with, like some former players that would work out and everything. And one of the former players happened to be a stunt double, like in a bunch of movies. Like he somehow got hooked in with movies, and anytime there's a football movie, he would he'd kind of be called in and be one of the guys that would go do football movies, and they'd go shoot Invincible or The Longest Yard, and anyways he would do that. So when I graduated, there was this like TV movie, and they needed a 6'4", kind of 225-pound white guy to be the stunt double for the actor. And so the producer asked him, "Do you know anybody like that?" So he recommended me. I did that, and then I kind of just fell into other opportunities. The Lizard Lick Towing was obviously all an act. It wasn't real, but I was in on it.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, you're the only
I'll jump
stunt
on.
double we've ever had on the show. So so let's move to football. And you do a lot of color for the SoCon and for the FCS. So what Coach Silverfield talked this week about UTC having this winning tradition, and they've had a winning record the last 4 seasons. So what can we expect from Chattanooga on Saturday?
Well, I think the biggest thing is they're a team that's kind of built on running the football and playing great defense. And that's the way they've been, since Coach Wright's been there. So this is a team that, just like it seems like every team has a lot of new players. So, every team's kind of learning new personnel, and every team is new every year. But I think what you can expect is a team that's going to be physical, that's going to be a big test for Memphis, as far as, they're a team that plays real defense, and they're going to run the ball, and they've got a good offensive line that they feel really good about. So I think anytime you're playing a team that, maybe is basics, has the basics down and the fundamentals down, and you can run it and play defense, that poses a challenge. So I think they're a team that's used to winning. I mean, his record speaks for itself, and they're picked for second in the SoCon preseason. So I think it's a good first test as far as a team that plays the right way for Memphis.
I'm going to take us back to your playing days. Playing for East Carolina. I believe you had 1 touchdown, correct? And I was trying to find out which game it
Yeah.
was. Do you remember that?
It was against
Remember.
NC State, but I played at the Liberty Bowl a couple times. And that Tiger, hey, I love playing there. When that Tiger there on the sideline, that's awesome. That's intimidating too for the away teams coming in. But I've called a game there too. But y'all have an awesome stadium, so it's a great atmosphere.
Now, take us through, playing, after your playing days. How soon after did you start getting into broadcasting?
Yeah, it's interesting. From there, I knew kind of all the people down at school, and I was with one of my coaches actually. Just we were hanging out after I finished playing, and we were with and he was friends with some of the people that ran the post game show and the radio. They owned the radio station down in Greenville, and he asked if I wanted to come over just after one of the games and do post game. And I said, yeah. And then I just kind of got involved in that, and then kind of continued to stay on doing the post game show, and then fell into, opportunities, and really just thankful to be presented opportunities. But I never knew, I mean, I was more shy in college than than probably outgoing, and
Yeah.
never knew, this is kind of what would happen. But I'm so grateful and thankful, because I'll tell you, it's once you get done playing, you miss it so much. And if I didn't do this, I don't know what I do, or I'd have to be involved in athletics somehow. So this is a really great opportunity, and I've done it ever since I finished school.
And
So
you do more than just football. You do basketball as well. Is it any other sports or just football and basketball?
Yeah, no, it's great. I played football in college, but I played basketball and other sports in high school. And with some of the schools and conferences that I work for here in North Carolina, I was lucky enough to get into on other sports. So I do football, basketball primarily, and then I've also done baseball and softball and other sports, kickball too, other sports.
pickleball's
Kind
next.
of done it all.
So I have a question, and I'm really more interested in the Moccasins' next game, which is at my alma mater, Tennessee Tech. So, what's your thoughts on? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. That is really my alma mater, and yes, I am interested in that game. Um, but let's talk about the SoCon, because when I was in school, which was 90 to 93, the SoCon was definitely, if not the premier, one of the premier what we call 1AA conferences. And Chattanooga was always one of those really, really good teams. In fact, I played them twice when I was in college. Um, so tell me about the SoCon, because I know a lot of our fans don't know it. And it really has a big tradition of not just winning, but winning national championships.
Yeah. No, it's a great league, and there's great coaches, and there's stability. I'm actually on Thursday. I'm doing Samford ball game, so I'll be coming up from Birmingham area up there.
Played them too.
And what'd you say?
I said played them too.
Yep, yeah. So
I
I'll see
think three
them.
times.
I'll see them on Thursday. But no, the SoCon is a historic league. It's been around, for so many years. But I think the biggest thing is, like, I went to the SoCon Media Day in July down in Greenville, South Carolina, and it's great coaches, and the coaches have been there. The coaches that have had stability in the programs have been there for a long time, and there's a lot of coaches that have moved up to higher levels, and just a lot of really good programs and a high level of football. And for Chattanooga, preseason number 2, and they've had winning years. So I mean, that's a testament to me how they're continuous winners, and they have the right recipe in the SoCon, and they can present challenges when they play teams outside of the league.
So the difference between, talk to me a little bit about the difference between, because when I played 1AA, there was a lot fewer 1A schools, right? I mean,
Yeah.
What's the difference now? I think a lot of people see the FBS and don't really appreciate the level of football. So, as you call that, I mean, you play at a high level. I mean, talk to me about what you see as far as the quality of that league.
Well, I think it's really good quality. I think the thing that right now that all schools are dealing with, it's being poached by different leagues. So, I mean, I know a lot of new guys. It happens to Memphis. It happens to all sorts of teams. But for a team like Chattanooga, if you've got a really good player, there's a high level of risk that someone's going to try to take that player. So the way I view that is all these schools, whatever, if you're in the SEC, the American, SoCon, or whatever league you're in, you always have to start out and dominate your league. And, if you're losing guys and, maybe it's not the most fair situation, you just have to, it's kind of happening to everybody. So you've got to get, if people are leaving your program, you've got to go find and be the best at your league at getting, a new crop of players, and be the best at, when you've got, 50 new guys on your team, the best at building them into the chemistry that you want and getting them up to speed, because it's kind of happening to everybody. I mean, it's not like there's very few teams that are immune to it. So anyways, but as far as the football goes, I mean, quarterback's great. There's a lot of athleticism. I think there's a ton of talent, and there are some really good players that have left. But I think every year there's a new crop of guys, and I think the difference is just maybe depth overall. But I mean, there's a lot of good transfers at Chattanooga, and I think again it's how you look at it. Yeah, there's maybe a lot of new players, but a lot of opportunity as well, and there's some guys that came from other schools that I think are going to be talented. Maybe didn't get a chance last year at their old school, but now they're going to have an opportunity. So I think there's a lot of learning and a lot, the coaches don't even know right now because they're still learning their teams and want to see how they perform. But I mean, I'd expect, in SoCon play, there's a reason they're picked second. So I think they're going to have a really good year.
So, kind of off the field a little bit. Again, you played in an era where there was no transfer. If you transferred, you had to sit out a year. There's no such thing as NIL. One thing I think that FCS has maybe a little bit an advantage of is they're more used to the immediate play. If I transfer from Memphis to FCS,
Yeah.
Chattanooga, I get to play immediately. I know the money's not the same and all that, but to me, the difference has always been up front, right? Like that's where the hoss is up front. That's what to me separates everybody. But taking the announcer hat off for a little bit, how do you feel about the direction overall of college football with NIL and open transfer and things like that?
Well, I mean, I don't like it. I don't. I mean, I like the good days when everybody stayed for three to 5 years and you knew who they were, and if somebody transferred, you had to sit out and there was stability. I think the coaches, I mean, I don't think they like it. I think it's a lot of change and you're recruiting guys and it's really year to year team. I think there needs to be, I think they're just, I think things will eventually calm down. There's going to be more guardrails, but, I'm just kind of old school and like the way it was when I was playing. And, I will say this, the one thing is I think there is more opportunity for, because sometimes you get stuck in a situation that's tough. And so in that case, if you're in a tough situation now, it's kind of easier to get out of that situation. And, I mean, I don't think every guy has to stick it out. If it's a wrong situation, you only get one college career. But I think more times than not, the best thing is to stick it out. But now you have an opportunity. If there is a better change, a senior, a better opportunity, you have that. So that's one positive of it. But overwhelmingly, I like the way it used to be.
So I don't know how much chance you've had to be around the Memphis program, but what are kind of, as somebody who's not on top of it every day, what are your thoughts about the job Coach Silverfield's doing and just kind of the program overall?
Yeah, I mean, you guys are the experts, so you would know more than me. But I'll say this: I did a game there about 6 years ago, when Coach Norvell was there, and Silverfield was Coach Silverfield was an assistant coach, and this was before he was head coach, and I thought he was awesome, like awesome, and great guy, and so open and just great with the prep with us, with the broadcasters, and just I thought he was a rising star. And then then obviously he became the head coach later on, and from afar, I mean, I think one of the top teams in the American. I think an opportunity to go to the playoff with their talent. I think knocking right on the door. Had really good years, but have an opportunity to kind of knock it down. So, I mean, from afar, I think there should be high hopes. What's your guys' status on everything?
Well, what were we last week? I think Larry and I were 10-2, and Brian was 11-1. So I think we have those high hopes. So before we let you go,
I was 9-3.
that's right. You were 9-3. You were the negative Nancy. Before we let you go, the most important question we ask all of our guests since you've been here before: wet or dry ribs?
Where should I? Well, I need y'all's advice first of all.
We'll hit up.
Where to go?
We'll hit up Central
I'll
Barbecue.
wet. I'll do wet.
Yeah, we'll get to Central Barbecue. Well, Jay, thanks so much for taking some time out this evening and joining us, and I look forward to seeing you on Saturday. You and Chris
Have fun in town.
That's right.
We'll do. Hey guys, thank you so much. Hey, and hopefully I'll see you at the stadium.
Yep, you'll see me there on Saturday. Thanks a lot.
Okay, really, thank you so much.
Appreciate it, Jay.
Jay Sunhalter from ESPN Plus. He and Chris Carlin are doing the game on Saturday, and you actually are connected in some ways with Chris because he's involved with Rutgers as well.
Yeah, and that's what I was hoping to get him on, but Jay was fantastic. I mean, I
Yeah.
love having him on too because I didn't realize. Yeah, he played for ECU before that, and he had a little bit of tie of Memphis there. He's played against Memphis, so yeah, it's good to have him on.
It's
It's
always
good.
good to have that
Yeah.
outsider's perspective,
Yes.
people that, like I said, that, we're on top of the program and, the guys from the league, we've all been guys like Mike James. We've been around, our respective programs and around the league. So, we know kind of what the program is. So it's always interesting, especially the FCS guys, because even Larry, since you've played, the FCS has changed tremendously because as you said, I want to say when you played, I want to say the FBS or 1A at that time was probably around 80 teams, 85, somewhere
Right.
through that. Now you're what, 133 this year, I think, 134. So,
I mean, you think about this, like um, Western Kentucky, we played them. They were one double A. Middle Tennessee was one double A. Arkansas State was one double A. I mean, like what Monroe, Louisiana Monroe, Louisiana Tech. All of those schools were what is now FBS, right? FCS, excuse me. And and so, I mean, to your point, to his point, I agree with him. I don't like all the movement. I like the fact that the guys have an opportunity to earn money. I don't like that the teams are basically have to be reconstructed every year. I like the fact that I went to school with guys for 4 years and we built something together. I'll be honest, when you would get somebody that transferred in, it was weird a little bit because like they came in with their own ego, and you didn't know where they were in the pecking order until you got on the field, right? And a lot of times you didn't know until you got into a game if this guy any good. We see that in basketball with the Tigers every year, right? This guy's going to be good. This guy's going to be good. And then you get out on the field, you get on the court, and well, actually he sucks. Like this guy's pretty good, but this guy sucks, right? I mean, and it's the same thing with football. You even in practice, like these guys, some of these guys are workout wonders. Like you're just like, oh god, this guy's going to be awesome. And then he gets on the field and he can't play a lick. He can't play dead. So it is what it is. But I'm going to tell you, um, I agree with him very much that there have to be some guardrails. These guys have got to sign contracts or whatever, and they've got to be linked somehow to the program for a period of time because the team like Memphis we so Tulane is benefiting, Memphis is benefiting to a degree, but long term, this is unhealthy, not just for Memphis, but for college football. So I didn't want to just throw that out there, and it's terrible for the FCS teams.
well, I mean, I know the money side of it is terrible, but Brian, like I was saying with them, like FCS is used to this transfer thing because that's how they build rosters. At
Mhm.
North Alabama, you're building a roster from guys that may be flamed out, at Alabama or at Memphis or at, Mississippi or Mississippi State. Like that's how FCS is, you recruit guys, right? You obviously
Yeah.
recruit kids, but you're filling out a roster based on, well, this guy's coming down because he couldn't cut it at Memphis.
Yeah, and I think the FCS level benefits how things are right now, not because well they get poached. I mean, Chandler Martin came from the FCS level, but less high school kids have an opportunity at the FBS level now.
That's true.
So
That is true.
I think the FCS, they can get some of these high schoolers, and if a high school kid wants to play right away, FCS levels, I mean, is where it's at.
And also they have a chance if they go and they, as the kids say, ball out, then Memphis may need a rent a running back for their senior year. So if you go to, we'll just say Chattanooga and you run all over everybody in the SoCon, then you're going to get looks from Memphis and SEC schools and whomever that is, because again, you're going to be looking for opportunity. All right, so let's get into the game a little bit. There's not really a whole lot to dissect here. Obviously, I think this is a game that Memphis wins, hopefully going away. Hopefully. So, Brian, we'll start with you. It will be, let's see, 3:30, 6. It will be 6:15 p.m. and the Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium scoreboard will say.
My prediction on the message board was Memphis 48-10, and I stand by that. Chattanooga hasn't even named a starting quarterback yet. I watched the press conference from their head coach. He's talking about he has two guys battling for it, and then when a reporter asks, are we going to see both quarterbacks in the game? He's like, well, maybe not. So if at this point of the game, the season, I know it's just started, but if you don't know who your quarterback is on, 5 days before the game, you might be in trouble. And when I take a look, and I don't know what two quarterbacks he's looking at. It could be, Camden Orth, who was the Bowling Green transfer. He throws under 60%. I think he was at 57, 58-ish percent. He's a senior. The only quarterback they have returning that has started for them is Luke Schoenberg, and he's at, I think, 53% completion percentage. But he started, I think, 4 games last year. So, their quarterback situation, at the start doesn't look good. So, they definitely have more playmakers around them. But for them to be picked second, in the SoCon, I guess, other people know more about Chattanooga than I do, but for me, it doesn't look good that, you don't have a starting quarterback right now.
What do they say, Larry? If you got 2 quarterbacks, how many do you have?
None. And look, to Brian's point, look, this just feels like a 54-10, 54-17 game. Memphis comes out relatively early, sort of seizes control. I do think that Cramsey's going to do a few things that that we wouldn't have normally done, because he's trying to figure out what he's got to a degree.
Yeah.
You're going to see a lot of DeRose. You're going to see a lot of Sutton Smith. But more than anything, I want to win and not have any injuries. If we do those 2 things, then it's a successful day. Looking good in a game like this is irrelevant, but everybody wants to look good, right? But if you just come out and you just play your game, dominate, don't show them a whole lot, and get out of there with a win.
Yeah, the only thing that I think Memphis score stays down is they're going to want to walk this line of, we've got to put some things on tape, but we don't want to put everything on tape.
Right.
Memphis is not going to run 37 trick plays. Nope. And, spreading they're not going to do anything they're going to play a lot of base offense, base defense. Now but again, they're going to put things on tape. And Memphis is a little thin on the defensive side of the football. So I think if Chattanooga can establish a running game, because the best way to stay with Memphis in this game is to keep the offense standing over there on the sideline. That's their best chance for them to come out and chew clock and those sorts of things. But I do think Memphis dominates. I don't remember what I said, but probably like 42-17, somewhere in there. But it'll be a 42-3 game at half, or 35-3 or something like that, and Memphis will have put it away. So before we get out of here, I do want to kind of catch up on some news that may impact Memphis. Late last week, I think it was, the SEC announced they are moving to 9 conference games and 1 game against a Power 4 team. So you may say, well, John, Memphis is not in the SEC. What does that matter? Well, if you are an SEC school and you have to play 9 league games and you have to play 1 game against a P4, are you going to play Memphis and I'm just going to pick on them because they're on the schedule, Memphis and Troy, or are you going to play Louisiana Monroe and Troy? So Memphis has 2 games scheduled. They have Arkansas State or Arkansas next year, and then they have Mississippi State, I think, the following year. Arkansas, I think they're next year. So the buyout for Arkansas, I think, is $3 million. For Mississippi State, it's $1 million. But I do think, Brian, this impacts school, not just Memphis, Tulane, Boise, all of these upper echelon G5 teams. You think we've had problems getting games now. When you add this in, that's going to make things even harder for. And again, this is not just Memphis. This is South Florida, who's got Alabama on the schedule. This is going to be a huge problem for, again, let's say South Florida and up when it comes to the G5. Although South Florida, I'd put them in the upper echelon for resource reasons, but it's going to be really difficult for good G5 teams to find good P4 games because you know what happens next. All the other leagues are going to do the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely looking like it will go that way. I do feel that Memphis, has the administration now, though, that can go out there and get some of these P5 schools to still play Memphis. Whether it be, I think it may just be a little bit low, like the Arkansas, because they're not, upper echelon SEC. I think the lower level Power 4 teams still may be an opportunity for Memphis to play. Maybe Memphis can get Purdue on the schedule because of Barry Odom. I mean, so there's still connections there Memphis has with other schools. I know Dan Mullen really liked Memphis, maybe, but he's not P4. But you could still get good matchups. I know Memphis in the past would like one P4 and one. One P4 and then, a high echelon,
G5.
group. Yeah, G5. But, I still think there's a pathway there for Memphis, like I said, with a lower level P4 school.
Yeah. Go ahead, John.
No, I hope, right? Because, again, the problem is going to be, so the SEC did it today, and, the Big 12 and the ACC, being the followers they are, they're going to do the same thing because maybe the networks, well, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. ESPN's forcing the hand on this, right? So, it may, instead of Memphis, Tennessee, or Memphis, Mississippi, it will be Memphis, Auburn, or Memphis, and Auburn's going to be looking for a coach again this year. That's neither here nor there. But that Arkansas down, maybe Purdue. We had Kansas on the schedule. Teams that I don't think, Mississippi State, frankly, doesn't have a ton to lose, playing Memphis because they're not going to, most years, they're not going to be in the national picture. But Mississippi State's showing something this year, Larry. You were talking about it. They are headed to Southern Miss this weekend.
Yes.
Mississippi State's been really, really good about that. I think they were at Troy one year. They don't shy away.
They've gone to Louisiana Tech. I'll give major kudos to Starkville for that because they don't shy away from playing. And look, there's something to be said for that. And anyway, because you're never, ever, 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 ever going to see Ole Miss in Hattiesburg, ever. The only way you're going to see Ole Miss in Hattiesburg is if it's on the way to a bowl game and they have to go through. That's the only way you're ever going to see the Ole Miss football team in Hattiesburg. But anyway, but back to what you were talking about. The one thing I will say, in the old days, we really needed an SEC team on the schedule to put fans in the seats. Okay, it's not like that anymore. We don't need Arkansas on the schedule to sell tickets as much. You can dial up. I mean, a good non P4 school, like if you brought in UNLV or like Boise, you can bring in teams like that and you're going to get a similar crowd. Now you bring in Ole Miss and Mississippi State, you're going to pack the place only because of proximity, right? Or Tennessee, right? you're going to pack the place because of proximity. But bringing in, any SEC school like Vanderbilt or Kentucky or something, that's not going to pack the place out. It's just not. And Kentucky might travel well, South Carolina might travel well, but I'm just saying we don't need that to put 30,000, 40,000 fans in the stands. You just don't need it anymore. And so, to your point, John, yes, is it detrimental? Are we going to see fewer SEC games? Yes, but I don't think that necessarily. We don't necessarily need that to put fans in the stands.
Well, to what you were talking about, and Brian, I don't mean anything by this really. I know they're your other team, but when Memphis joined the Big East and everybody was super excited, I made the comment that what is the crowd difference going to be on a Thursday night where 3-6 Memphis is facing 2-7 Rice, or they're facing 4-5 Rutgers? Right, like there would be no discernible difference in those crowds, and I think Larry, you're really on to the point there that, the mid-level, we don't have to have that anymore. We've got it. We have built a solid base, and as long as Memphis stays winning and plays entertaining football, Memphis is not going to have a problem putting people in the stands. And as Jeb just said in the chat, this is where Memphis' stadium is going to be reduced to 50K once this, modernization is all done. And I will tell you that 33,000 people in a 50,000 seat stadium looks a hell of a lot better than 33,000 people in a 62,000 seat stadium.
Correct.
And the stadium is going to be more intimate, and a lot of great things are going to come from that. But that is one of the big things. Is this is where the old NBA kicks in, right? It's supply and demand, and the appearance for Memphis football in a 63,000 seat stadium is there's no demand. But when you say, all right, well, we're expecting a crowd of 40,000 in a 50,000 seat stadium, then that encouraged, well, maybe I should get a ticket, because Memphis is historically a huge walk-up town. I do think they're saying 50, but it might be less than that. It may be closer to 45.
Jeb's right, because when they redid Jeb's right. When they first did it, they were saying 50, but after they laid it all in, they were like, nah, it's going to be low. I think Jeb's right. It's going to be between 45 and 47.
Yeah, obviously the Arkansas game is going to be packed because we're at about 30K right now. So that's going to be a great atmosphere. I'm looking very forward to that. But we got 3 games to get through before we get to that. So I think Memphis wins handily on Saturday. I think we all do.
And look, enjoy. Everything really starts Thursday. So I'm excited. We're all excited. Enjoy the weekend. There's nothing like college football Saturday. And I will simply say it just like this. If you can't enjoy the opening weekend of college football, then I don't think you're an American. I just don't, and I think you should leave. And B, you really, really should get some antidepressants or something, because this is the most enjoyable time. Everybody's undefeated, and you can just go out and just have fun. So,
bold predictions for the game. We forgot to do that.
Bold prediction. So Brian, we'll start with you. Thanks for keeping us on point. Go ahead and give us yours.
Bold prediction for me is that you'll have Brendan Lewis throw over 300 yards. You'll have a running back, I don't know which one, a running back go over 100 yards rushing, and you'll have one wide receiver over 100 yards receiving. So I think there's going to be a big offensive output. That's my bold prediction.
My bold prediction is that we have more running yards than Chattanooga has passing yards.
There's Jeb's bold prediction. Sutton Smith will return a kick for a touchdown.
I like that.
Mine is we're going to have 5 turnovers. We're going to force 5 turnovers.
Oh, wow.
Because I think of either unit, the defense really has to show, they kind of feel like probably they have something to prove. And I think they're going to come out guns a-blazing and force a lot of turnovers. All right. So last thing before we go, because I wanted to ask you, and I'm going to start doing this every week. Other than Memphis, what game are you most excited to watch? I'm not going to get to watch it, but man, that Alabama-Florida State game absolutely intrigues me. But what game other than Memphis are you guys most excited to check in on or watch or whatever it might be?
You go, Ryan.
For me, it's that USF Boise game because I think Boise is overrated, and I really and I think it's there's rain in the forecast in South Florida, and South Florida's team is used to the rain because I mean they're practice because I don't think they have an indoor practice facility yet. I just feel that this is where USF makes a bold statement, and I don't. It may not be a close game. I really think that South Florida is going to take them to the woodshed. We'll see, but maybe that's just me wishful thinking. I'm trying to speak it into existence, but I really want to see Boise State lose.
Larry, what?
It's Ohio State, Texas, and because so for me, for those who don't know, my wife's from Ohio and she's an Ohio State fan, and so how quickly, let's say Texas goes up there, which I think they're actually going to do, goes up there and beats them. Ryan Day will go from winning the national championship to people putting for sale signs in his yard within the first week. Like this guy, I mean, it doesn't matter what he does, literally. It's to me, and to hear Ohio State fans and what they think of him when clearly, like, he's one of the three best coaches they've had in maybe ever. And I mean, it's obvious. Like, he's taken to the national championship, 3 times, won one. I mean, it's crazy. But anyway, I think that's hilarious. And before we get out of here, I do want to say I am very disappointed that we did not talk about Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift, and I'm very disappointed. So anyway,
baby, I was saving that.
You were saving it for last.
I was saving that for last. For those who don't know, I am a bit of a Swiftie, and I'm very excited for them because I just think that's good for sports. And as somebody said earlier today, and I don't follow the NFL that closely, so this is just a little dig. They said, well, at least now Kelce will get a ring. So I was like, that's a bold statement for the Chiefs. But anyway, this is not the Taylor Swift show.
I was sitting in a meeting and my phone started to blow up. It was my daughter. It's just massive, massive news. And, you just have to. So anyway.
Well, well, you know what? Jeb says he wants to see that prenup, and not to get too deep on this rabbit hole, but that's a prenup that's got to swing both ways.
Yeah,
like that's going to be
because she's super rich. But like the Kelce's,
he can afford a hamburger. Let's put it that way, as Ed Orgeron said. I think I got enough to afford a cheeseburger. But the thing I'm probably most excited about with this is Jason Kelce as a best man. Just makes my heart flutter.
And Jason Kelce absolutely hates kickers, so he's my man.
And for those who don't know, if you're looking, obviously we're the best podcast, right? But if you're looking for another great podcast, New Heights with the Kelce brothers is fantastic.
Yes,
it's a great show. It's a great podcast, and it's one of my joys every week to watch and listen to. So, yeah. Taylor Swift is currently worth $1.6 billion
with a B.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that prenup. So now we got Taylor Swift news out of the way. Saturday at Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium, 3:30 p.m. ESPN Plus if you can't be there. Memphis and Chattanooga. Finally, it is the most wonderful time of the year. It is game week. So until next week.
Yeah, we'll have some articles, so make sure you sign up at tigersportsreport.com. We have your first week for $1, so make sure you sign up.
Yep. And also get you free access to The Athletic with your subscription. So it's a great value. So for the best co-hosts in all the land, Larry Marley and Brian Moss, this is John Maddox signing off, saying we will see everybody next week. Será que él decide primero
jamais plus que Johnny